The stars had never been kind to humanity, but humanity had learned to survive anyway. Admiral Una Park stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Eternal Vigil, and watched the black emptiness of space through the viewing window. She was 52 years old. She had spent 30 of those years fighting wars that were not her own. Her hair had turned gray early. Her eyes had grown tired. But her back remained straight, and her voice remained strong. Behind her, the bridge crew worked in silence. They were all human. They were all tired. And they all knew that no one in the galaxy cared about their sacrifice. 300 years ago, humanity had joined the Galactic Coalition. It was supposed to be a partnership. The elder races, the Valari and the Corvani, had welcomed humans with open arms. They called humanity young and promising. They said humans would learn much from the older civilizations. What humanity learned was this: the galaxy needed soldiers. And humans were very good at dying. The Valari were beautiful creatures made of living crystal. They had existed for millions of years. They had built cities that floated among the clouds and ships that moved like poetry through space. But they did not like to fight. Fighting was ugly. Fighting was beneath them. The Corvani were tall and thin, with skin like gray paper and eyes like black stones. They controlled the banks and the trade routes. They made the laws and counted the money. But they did not like to bleed. Bleeding was for lesser races. So when pirates attacked the outer colonies, humans were sent to stop them. When border disputes turned violent, humans were sent to restore peace. When ancient enemies awoke from their long sleep, humans were sent to push them back. And the coalition said thank you. Sometimes, when they remembered Captain Tayo Kim walked onto the bridge and stood beside Admiral Park. He was younger than her, only 38, but war had aged him too. There was a scar on his left cheek from a battle 3 years ago, a battle that the coalition had already forgotten. "Admiral," he said quietly, "we received new orders from coalition command." Una did not turn around. "Let me guess. Another patrol mission in the dead zones. Another month of watching empty space while our ships fall apart." "Yes, Admiral." She finally turned to look at him. Taiha had been her second in command for 5 years now. She trusted him more than anyone else in the fleet. She also knew that he was angry. He was always angry these days. He had good reasons to be. "How is the crew?" She asked. "Tired. We have been out here for 6 months without proper resupply. The Corvani promised us new parts 2 months ago. They never came. They never do." This was the truth of life in the coalition. Humans did the work. Humans took the risks. And humans were always last in line for supplies, repairs, and recognition. On the planet Earth, children learned about the great alliance between species. They learned about cooperation and unity. They learned that the galaxy was better because everyone worked together. But out here, in the cold dark between stars, the truth was different. The truth was that the coalition saw humans as tools, useful, replaceable, not quite equals. Dr. Hannah Choi understood this better than most. She was humanity's representative on the Coalition Council. She sat in the great chamber on the Velari homeworld, surrounded by aliens who had lived for thousands of years. And she spoke for her people. They rarely listened today. She stood before the council to request more support for the human fleets. A new threat had appeared on the galactic rim. Strange ships with no markings. Ships that attacked colonies and left nothing behind. Not even bodies. "The human fleets have lost 40,000 soldiers in the past year," Hannah said. Her voice was calm and clear. She had learned long ago that showing emotion only made the elder races dismiss her faster. "We need reinforcements. We need supplies. We need the coalition to share this burden." The Velari ambassador floated forward. Her body was made of blue crystal. It caught the light and scattered it into rainbows. She was ancient and beautiful, and completely indifferent to human suffering. "The humans are well suited for this work," she said. Her voice was like music, like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "Your species has always been ... persistent, aggressive. These are valuable traits for soldiers." "We are not just soldiers," Hana replied. "We are members of this coalition. We deserve the same protection as any other race." The ambassador made a sound that might have been a laugh. "You have been members for 300 years. That is nothing. The Velari have existed for 300 million years. Perhaps in time, you will earn greater consideration." In time. Always in time. Humanity had heard this promise for 3 centuries. The promise never came true. Far away, on the bridge of the Eternal Vigil, Admiral Park received a new transmission. It was a distress call from a human colony on the edge of known space. The strange ships had appeared again. The colony was under attack. "Set a course," she ordered. "Maximum speed." "Admiral," Taiho said carefully, "our ships are already damaged. If we push them too hard, we might not make it back. Those are our people, Captain. We will not abandon them." Taiho nodded. He had expected this answer. Admiral Park never abandoned anyone. It was why the crew loved her. It was also why she had more scars than any officer in the fleet. The Eternal Vigil turned toward the distant colony, its engines burning bright against the endless dark. Around it, the other ships of the 7th Human Fleet followed. They were old ships, patched together with spare parts and hope. They were crewed by tired men and women who had not seen their families in months. But they went anyway, because that was what humans did. They went where they were needed, even when no one thanked them. They fought the battles that others refused to fight. They died in the darkness so that others could live in the light. And somewhere, in the comfortable halls of the Coalition Council, the elder races continued their debates about trade agreements and cultural exchanges. They did not think about the humans bleeding on the frontier. They did not wonder if the soldiers had enough food or medicine or ammunition. Why would they? Humans always found a way. Humans always survived until the day they decided not to. That day was coming. Admiral Park could feel it in her bones, like a storm building on the horizon. The galaxy had taken humanity for granted for too long. One day, humans would stop giving. And on that day, the galaxy would learn what it had lost. But for now, there was a colony to save. There were people to protect. There was work to do. The 7th Fleet flew on into the darkness, alone and forgotten, carrying the weight of a galaxy that did not deserve them. The colony of New Bizin burned for 3 days. Admiral Una Park arrived too late. Her fleet had pushed their engines beyond safe limits, had flown without rest or repair, but it was not enough. The strange ships had already finished their work and disappeared into the void. 3 million people had lived on New Bizin, farmers and teachers and children, families who had left Earth to build a new life among the stars. Now there was nothing left but ash and silence. Captain Taiho Kim stood in the ruins of what had once been a school. The walls were black with fire. The desks were melted into strange shapes. He did not cry. He had forgotten how to cry years ago. But something inside him broke that day, something that would never heal. His sister had lived here. Her name was Sumi. She had been a nurse at the colony hospital. She had 2 children, a boy and a girl, ages 7 and 5. Taiho had not seen them in 2 years. He had been too busy fighting the Coalition's wars. Now he would never see them again. "Captain." A young officer approached him carefully. "Admiral Park wants you back on the ship." "We found something." Taiho turned away from the ruined school. His face was empty. His eyes were cold. He walked back to the shuttle without saying a word. On the eternal vigil, Lieutenant Minho Beak was waiting with his report. Minho was the fleet's intelligence officer, a quiet man with glasses and a sharp mind. He had spent weeks studying the strange ships, collecting data from every attack, looking for patterns. "I know what they are," he said. His voice was tired but certain. "I know where they came from." Admiral Park leaned forward in her chair. Around her, the senior officers gathered to listen. They all looked exhausted. They all looked angry. "Tell us," Una said. Minho activated the display screen. It showed an image of one of the enemy ships. It was black and angular, with no windows and no visible engines. It looked more like a tomb than a vessel. "They call themselves the Hollow," Minho explained. "Or at least, that is the closest translation we can find. They are machines. Ancient machines. They were built by a race that died 1 billion years ago." "Machines?" Taiho asked. "They attack colonies. They take everything. Bodies, buildings, technology. What do machines want with organic matter?" "Fuel," Minho said simply. "They convert organic matter into energy. They have been sleeping in the void for millions of years, waiting. Something woke them up. And now they are hungry." The room was silent. 1 billion years. The human mind could barely understand such a number. And now this ancient evil was awake, and it was coming for them. "We need to tell the Coalition," Admiral Park said. "This is not just a human problem. The Hollow will not stop with us. They will consume everything." "I already sent a report," Minho replied. 3 weeks ago. And no response. Dr. Hana Choi brought the matter before the Coalition Council herself. She showed them the evidence. She showed them the destruction. She showed them the projections of what would happen if the Hollow were not stopped. The Vilari ambassador listened with polite boredom. The Corvani representatives whispered among themselves about costs and budgets. The Silix delegation, a race of small furry creatures that humanity had saved from extinction 50 years ago, sat in silence and avoided Hana's eyes. "This is clearly a human matter," the Vilari ambassador said when Hana finished speaking. "The attacks have occurred in human space, human colonies. It would not be appropriate for the Coalition to interfere in internal human affairs." Internal affairs? Hana could not believe what she was hearing. This is a threat to all life in the galaxy. The Hollow do not care about borders or species. They will come for you too. Perhaps, perhaps not. The Velari have survived for millions of years. We have seen threats come and go. We will endure. Not this time, not if you do nothing. The ambassador smiled. It was not a kind smile. The humans have always been dramatic. You see every problem as the end of the world. It is one of your less charming qualities. Hana looked around the chamber. She looked at the faces of the alien representatives. Some were bored. Some were annoyed. None of them cared. Not really. Not enough. 3 million people died on New Bizan, she said quietly. Children died. Families died. And you sit here and tell me it is not your concern. We are sorry for your loss, the ambassador replied. But the Coalition must consider the needs of all member races. We cannot spend our resources on every human problem. The Silix representative finally spoke. He was a small creature, barely a meter tall, with golden fur and large dark eyes. Humans had called his people cute once. They had fought and died to protect them from slavers. They had asked for nothing in return. I agree with the ambassador, Basilix said. His voice was high and thin. This seems like a human problem. We should not get involved. Something changed in Hannah's eyes. Something that had been holding on for 300 years finally let go. I see, she said. I understand now. She turned and walked out of the chamber. She did not look back. 1 week later, Admiral Una Park stood in the same chamber. She was in full dress uniform, every medal she had ever earned displayed on her chest. There were many medals, too many. Each one represented a battle that no one else had wanted to fight. Humanity requests an emergency vote, she announced. We request full military support against the hollow threat. Ships, soldiers, supplies. We are asking the coalition to honor its commitments. The vote was held. The Velari voted no. The Corvani voted no. The Silics voted no. 12 races voted no. 3 abstained. None voted yes. Admiral Park nodded slowly. She had expected this. She had hoped for something different, but she had expected this. She reached up and removed her admiral's insignia. She placed it on the council table. The metal made a small sound against the ancient wood. For 300 years, she said, humanity has served this coalition. We have bled for you. We have died for you. We have protected your borders and fought your enemies and asked for nothing but respect. Her voice was steady. Her eyes were clear. Every alien in the chamber was watching her now. You have given us nothing. No respect. No support. No gratitude. You have used us like tools and thrown us away when we were broken. She took a breath. Humanity formally withdraws from the Galactic Coalition. Effective immediately. All human ships, all human personnel, all human resources were returned to human space. You wanted us to fight alone? Now you can fight alone yourselves. The chamber erupted in noise. The Velari ambassador rose, her crystal body flashing with angry colors. You cannot do this. You need us. Your economy depends on coalition trade. Your technology comes from coalition research. You will collapse within a year. Admiral Park smiled. It was not a happy smile. Maybe, but we will collapse on our own terms. Not as your servants, not as your shields. You will come back, the ambassador insisted. You will beg us to take you back. Dr. Hana Choi appeared at Admiral Park's side. She looked older than she had a week ago. Older and sadder and absolutely certain. No, Hannah said softly. We will not. They turned and walked out of the chamber together. Behind them, the alien races continued to argue and shout. They did not understand what had just happened. They could not imagine a galaxy without humans doing the hard work. They would learn. Soon enough, they would all learn. The age of humanity's service was over. The age of consequences was about to begin. The humans left quietly. There were no angry speeches, no dramatic confrontations. They simply packed their things and went home. Across 1,000 worlds, human engineers put down their tools. Human doctors closed their clinics. Human soldiers returned their weapons and walked away. The galaxy had told them they were not needed. So they left. Engineer Jiho Yoon had spent 20 years on a Corvani space station called Prosperity 7. He knew every pipe, every wire, every circuit in the entire structure. When he arrived, the station had been falling apart. The Corvani did not like to work with their hands. They considered physical labor beneath their dignity. Jiho had rebuilt the life support systems. He had repaired the power generators. He had fixed problems that the Corvani engineers had ignored for decades. The station commander had once told him that Prosperity 7 would collapse without him. It was not meant as a compliment. It was meant as a chain. On the day Jiho left, the station commander came to see him off. The Corvani was tall and thin, with gray skin that looked like old paper. His black eyes showed something that might have been concern. You cannot leave, the commander said. Who will maintain the systems? Jiho picked up his bag. It was not heavy. 20 years of work, and he could carry everything he owned in one small bag. Your people will maintain them, he said. You have engineers, you have tools. You have the manuals I wrote. Our engineers do not understand these systems like you do. Then they will learn. The commander blocked his path. If you leave, the station will fail. People will die. Is that what you want? Jiho looked at the commander for a long moment. He thought about all the times he had worked through the night to keep the station running. He thought about the meals he had missed, the sleep he had sacrificed, the years he had given to people who never thanked him. You should have thought about that before you voted to abandon my people, he said. He walked around the commander and did not look back. 3 weeks after Jiho left, the main power generator on Prosperity 7 failed. The backup systems, which had not been properly maintained, failed 12 hours later. The station went dark and cold. Rescue ships arrived eventually, but not before 200 Corvani had frozen to death. The coalition called it a tragedy. They did not call it a lesson. Not yet. On Earth, President Dowan Lee addressed humanity. He was an old man with white hair and kind eyes. He had fought in the border wars when he was young. He still walked with a limp from a wound he received saving a Velari merchant ship. My fellow humans, he said, for 300 years we have served the galaxy. We have given our blood, our sweat, our tears. We have protected those who could not protect themselves. We have built and healed and fought and died. His voice was calm but firm. The galaxy has told us that our service means nothing. They have told us that our lives are cheap. They have told us that we are tools, not partners. He paused, so we come home. Not in defeat, but in dignity. We will build our own future. We will protect our own people. And we will let the galaxy learn what it has lost. The message spread across human space. On colony worlds and space stations, on ships and outposts, humans heard the words and understood. The time of sacrifice was over. The time of self-respect had begun. Dr. Yoonji Shin was the galaxy's leading expert on the Hollow. She had studied the ancient machines for 10 years. She understood their technology better than anyone alive. Her research was stored in the Coalition's central database, available to scientists from every member race. On the day she left, she deleted everything. Her supervisor, a Velari scientist named something that sounded like singing glass, was horrified. You cannot destroy this knowledge, the Velari said. It belongs to the Coalition. It belongs to everyone. It belongs to me, Yoonji replied. I created it. With my mind, my time, my effort. And I am taking it with me. The Hollow are a threat to all life. Without your research, we cannot develop defenses. Yoonji smiled. It was not a kind smile. Yes, I know. She walked out of the laboratory and never returned. The Velari scientists tried to recreate her work, but they had never paid attention when Yoonji explained her methods. They had assumed she would always be there to do the hard work for them. They were wrong. Captain Taeho Kim stood on the observation deck of his ship and watched the Coalition border grow smaller in the distance. Around him, the entire 7th Fleet was heading home. They had been ordered to abandon their patrol routes, to leave the outer territories undefended. It felt strange, wrong. For his entire career, Taeho had been taught that protecting others was the highest duty. Now he was leaving billions of beings to face the Hollow alone. Admiral Una Park joined him at the window. She looked tired. She always looked tired these days. Having second thoughts? She asked. Many thoughts, Taeho admitted. Not all of them good. The Hollow will not stop at the border. They will keep expanding. Without us, the Coalition cannot hold them. I know. Billions will die. I know that too. Una was quiet for a moment. Then she said, My father used to tell me that you cannot help people who do not want to be helped. You can only hurt yourself trying. Taeho thought about his sister, about her children, about the school that was now ash and memory. 3 million people died on New Bizen, he said. The coalition did nothing. They called it our problem. They told us to handle it ourselves. He turned to look at the Admiral. Now they can handle their own problems. I feel no guilt. I know you do not. Yuna put a hand on his shoulder. But do not let anger become hate, Tayo. Hate will poison you. It will make you into something you are not. What should I feel instead? Nothing. Feel nothing for them. Save your feelings for your own people. They deserve them. The coalition does not. The fleet flew on through the empty space between stars. Behind them, the galaxy began to fall apart. It happened slowly at first. Trade routes that humans had protected became dangerous. Pirate attacks increased. Medical supplies that human doctors had distributed became scarce. Technology that human engineers had maintained began to fail. The coalition held emergency meetings. They passed resolutions. They formed committees. They did everything except the one thing that might have made a difference. They did not apologize. Analyst Narration was young, only 25, but she had already seen too much. Her job was to monitor the galactic situation from Earth's intelligence headquarters. Every day, she watched the reports come in. Colony worlds going dark. Distress calls that went unanswered. The hollow spreading like a disease across the rim. They are asking for help again, she told her supervisor one morning. The Corvani sent an official request for military assistance. Her supervisor, an old woman with gray hair and hard eyes, did not look up from her work. What does the president say? The same thing he always says. We are not their soldiers anymore. Then that is the answer. Nari hesitated. Millions are dying out there. Every day. The hollow are getting closer to the core worlds. Yes. Does that not bother you? The old woman finally looked up. Her eyes were not cruel, but they were not soft either. Child, I spent 40 years watching humans die for people who did not care. I held friends as they bled out on alien worlds, fighting for alien causes. And do you know what the coalition did when we asked for help? They formed committees. They passed resolutions. They did everything except actually help. She turned back to her work. Now it is their turn to watch. Their turn to ask for help that does not come. I feel sorry for the innocent who will suffer. But I do not feel sorry for the coalition. They made their choice. Now they live with it. Nari returned to her station. The reports kept coming. The lights on her map kept going dark. And somewhere in the void, the hollow kept spreading, kept consuming, kept growing. The galaxy was beginning to understand what it had lost, but understanding came too late for many. Far too late. The Valerie homeworld had stood for 300 million years. Its crystal towers reached into pink skies. Its floating cities drifted above purple oceans. Its libraries contained the knowledge of 1,000 extinct civilizations. Poets called it the jewel of the galaxy. Philosophers called it the heart of culture. Travelers called it the most beautiful world ever created. The hollow called it food. They came without warning. 1,000 black ships appeared in orbit, blotting out the twin suns. The Velari defense fleet, small and poorly trained, was destroyed in the first hour. They had never needed a real military. For 300 years, humans had protected them. The ambassador who had laughed at Admiral Park stood in her crystal palace and watched the black ships descend. Her perfect face showed emotions she had not felt in centuries. Fear, regret, despair. She sent a message on every channel she could reach. Her voice, once so musical and confident, was now thin with terror. This is the Valari ambassador calling human forces. We were wrong. We were foolish. Please, we beg you, send help. Send anyone. We will give you anything. We will do anything. Please, please help us. The message traveled across the galaxy at the speed of light. It reached human space in 3 days. It was heard. It was recorded. It was filed. No response was sent. The Velari homeworld burned for 11 days. The crystal towers melted. The floating cities crashed into the seas. The libraries, with all their ancient knowledge, became ash. 3 billion Velari died, their crystalline bodies shattered and consumed by machines that felt nothing. When it was over, there was only silence. The news spread across the coalition like a wave of ice. The Velari, the oldest and proudest race in the galaxy, were almost extinct. A few survivors escaped on ships that fled before the final collapse. They became refugees, begging for shelter from races they had once looked down upon. The Corvani were next. They abandoned their homeworld before the Hollow arrived, loading their banks and their bureaucrats onto massive colony ships. They left behind billions of workers and servants who could not afford passage. The Hollow took them all. The Silics, the small furry people that humanity had saved 50 years ago, tried to hide. They sealed their world behind force fields and prayed to their ancient gods. The force fields lasted 2 days. The gods did not answer. Of the billions of Silics, only 3 colony ships escaped. They drifted through space with no destination, sending distress calls that no one answered. Analyst Narration watched it all from her station on Earth. Her map of the galaxy, once bright with lights, was growing dark. Every day, more lights went out. Every day, more species died. The Hollow have taken 40% of Coalition space, she reported to Admiral Park. The young woman's voice was steady, but her hands shook slightly. They are moving faster now, learning, adapting. Our projections show they will reach the core worlds within 6 months. Admiral Park studied the map. She had not slept properly in weeks. The weight of the galaxy seemed to rest on her shoulders, even though she had tried to put it down. And the coalition response? There is no coalition anymore. Not really. Each race is looking out for itself. They are fighting over escape routes and resources. Some have already surrendered to the Hollow, hoping to be consumed last. Surrendered? To machines that eat everything? Desperation makes people do strange things. Dr. Hannah Choi entered the room. She was 91 years old now, her hair white and her skin thin as paper. But her eyes were still sharp, still fierce. She had lived long enough to see humanity's vindication. She was not sure she was happy about it. The transmissions are still coming, she said. Every frequency, every channel. They are all asking for the same thing. What thing? Forgiveness. Hannah sat down heavily. They are asking humanity to forgive them, to come back, to save them. Captain Taiho Kim had been listening from the corner of the room. His face was stone. His eyes were empty. Let them ask, he said. Let them beg. My sister begged too when New Bizen was burning. No one came. Taiho, Hannah started. No. His voice was sharp. I will not pretend to feel sorry for them. They watched us die for 300 years. They laughed at our suffering. Now they suffer, and I feel nothing. The room was silent. No one could argue with his pain. No one tried. Admiral Park walked to the window. Outside, the earth turned slowly below them, blue and green and alive. The one world that humanity had always protected. The one world that was still safe. I understand your anger, Taiho, she said without turning around. I share it. But anger is not a strategy. We need to decide what we are going to do. Taiho laughed bitterly. We are going to do nothing. We are going to stay here, behind our defenses, and let the galaxy burn. It is what they deserve. And if the Hollow come for us next, then we will fight. And we will probably lose. But at least we will die free, not as servants to people who hate us. Nari spoke up quietly. Admiral, may I say something? Go ahead. The Hollow are not going to stop. They are machines programmed to consume. When they finish with the Coalition, they will come for us. Not because they hate us. Not because they want revenge. Simply because we are organic and they are hungry. I know that. If we do nothing now, we will face them alone. But if we act while the Coalition still has some resources, some ships, some people, we might be able to stop them. Together. Taiho turned on her. Together? With the races that abandoned us? With the people who called us primitives and tools? Yes, Nari did not back down. Because the alternative is extinction. For everyone. Including us. Dr. Hannah Choi nodded slowly. She is right, Taiho. I hate them too. I hate what they did to us. But I hate the Hollow more. And I am too old and too tired to die for pride. The room fell silent again. Outside the window, the stars burned cold and distant. Somewhere out there, civilizations were dying. Species that had existed for millions of years were being erased forever. The greatest catastrophe in galactic history was happening, and humanity was doing nothing. Admiral Park turned back to face the room. Her face was older than her years, marked by battles and losses and endless responsibility. She had fought her whole life to protect people who did not appreciate her. She had given everything for a galaxy that gave nothing back. And now that galaxy was asking her to save it again. I need time to think, she said finally. We all do. This is not a decision that should be made in anger or haste. How much time do we have? Nari asked. Not much. A few weeks, maybe. The Hollow will reach critical mass soon. After that, there will be no stopping them. And if we decide to help? What then? Admiral Park looked at the star map, at the darkness spreading across the galaxy like a disease. Then we go to war. One more time. Not for the Coalition. Not for gratitude. For ourselves. For the future. For the simple reason that someone has to. She walked out of the room. The others stayed behind, watching the lights go out, one by one. Somewhere in the void, the Hollow kept moving. They did not know fear or mercy or doubt. They simply consumed, growing stronger with every world they destroyed. The galaxy was dying, and only humanity could save it. The question was, did humanity still want to? The vote was held on a Tuesday. Every human colony, every orbital station, every ship in the fleet was given a voice. The question was simple. Should humanity return to save a galaxy that had betrayed them? The debate lasted 2 weeks. Old soldiers told stories of friends who had died in forgotten battles. Young children asked why they should risk their lives for people they had never met. Families argued over dinner tables. Strangers argued in public squares. The entire species wrestled with a question that had no easy answer. Captain Taiho Kim voted no. He had lost too much to forgive. Engineer Jiho Yoon voted no. He remembered the station commander who had treated him like a tool. Analyst Nari Song voted yes. She believed that survival mattered more than pride. Dr. Yoonji Shin voted yes. She had spent years studying the Hollow and knew they would not stop until everything was gone. When the votes were counted, the result was close. Closer than anyone had expected. But in the end, 53% chose yes. Humanity would fight one more time. Admiral Una Park received the news in her quarters. She had not voted. As fleet commander, she felt it was not her place to influence the decision. But when she heard the result, she allowed herself a small moment of relief. Dr. Hannah Choi came to see her that night. The old diplomat moved slowly now, her body worn by 91 years of fighting battles with words instead of weapons. They voted to help, Hannah said. I was not sure they would. Neither was I. Why do you think they did? Admiral Park thought about the question for a long time. Because we are human, she said finally. We are stubborn and proud, and sometimes foolish. But when it matters, when the darkness comes, we cannot stand by and watch others die. It is not in our nature, even when those others hurt us, especially then, because our kindness is not payment for their kindness. It is who we are. It does not depend on them. Hannah smiled. It was a tired smile, but genuine. I hope we are not making a mistake. We probably are. But it is the right mistake to make. The human fleet gathered at the edge of Sol System. Every ship that could fly. Every soldier that could fight. Every pilot, every engineer, every medic. They came from Earth and Mars and the distant colonies. They came knowing they might not come back. Admiral Park stood on the bridge of the Eternal Vigil and looked at the fleet surrounding her. Thousands of ships, from massive battle cruisers to tiny fighter craft. It was the largest military force humanity had ever assembled. It was not enough. Everyone knew it. But they went anyway. Captain Tayo Kim had voted no, but he came anyway. He stood at his station on the bridge, his face hard as stone. When Admiral Park asked him why, he said only, "Someone has to protect you from making bad decisions." She smiled at that. It was almost like the old days. Dr. Yoonji Shin had developed a weapon. During her years of exile, she had not been idle. She had studied the hollow technology she had taken from the Coalition. She had found a weakness. The hollow are networked, she explained to the command staff. Every ship is connected to every other ship. They share information, coordinate attacks, learn from each battle. But if we can disrupt that network, even for a moment, they will become confused, disorganized, vulnerable. How do we disrupt them? Taiho asked. We send a virus, a piece of code that spreads through their network and corrupts their communication protocols. It will not destroy them, but it will blind them. Give us a chance. You said we need to send this virus. How? Yoonji hesitated. Someone has to fly into the heart of their fleet, into the central hub, and transmit the virus directly. That is a suicide mission. Yes, it is. The bridge was silent. Everyone understood what was being asked. Someone would have to die to give humanity a chance. Lieutenant Minho Beek stepped forward. The quiet intelligence officer had barely spoken during the meeting, but now his voice was clear and certain. I will do it, he said. I have studied the hollow longer than anyone except Dr. Shin. I know their patterns, their movements. I can get through. Minho, Admiral Park started. Admiral, we both know this is my mission. Let me do something that matters. She looked at him for a long moment. Then she nodded double quotes, thank you, Lieutenant. The fleet entered Coalition space 3 days later. What they found was worse than they had imagined. Entire systems had been stripped bare. Planets that had once held billions now orbited as dead rocks. Their atmospheres consumed, their surfaces scoured clean. The survivors they found were broken. Velari refugees huddled in damaged ships, their crystal bodies cracked and dull. Corvani clerks, who had once counted billions, now counted the hours, until death. Silic's children cried for parents who would never come. There was no celebration at humanity's return. It was only desperate, tearful gratitude. The final battle took place in the Hollow Home system. No one had ever found it before. The machines had kept it hidden, protected. But Minho had traced their communications, followed their patterns, mapped their movements. He led the fleet through a maze of dead systems to the place where it all began. 1 billion hollow ships waited there. A swarm so vast it blotted out the stars. At their center was the hub, a structure the size of a small moon, pulsing with dark energy. All ships, Admiral Park announced O. And every frequency. This is it. Everything we have fought for. Everything we have lost. It ends today. The battle was chaos. Human ships tore into the hollow formation, trading fire at close range. Explosions lit up the darkness. Ships died in seconds, their crews vaporized before they could scream. Captain Tayo Kim led the vanguard. He flew his ship into the heart of the enemy fleet, drawing fire away from the others. His shields failed. His engines burned. But he kept flying, kept fighting, kept pushing forward. For Sumi, he whispered as another hollow ship exploded before him. For her children. For everyone we lost. Minho Beak flew alone toward the hub. His small ship dodged through the battle, avoiding the larger vessels, slipping through gaps in the enemy formation. The virus was ready. All he had to do was get close enough to transmit. The Hollow saw him. They turned their attention to his tiny ship, recognizing the threat. 1,000 weapons locked onto him. 1,000 ships moved to intercept. He was not going to make it. The math was clear. The distance was too great, the enemies too many, and the human fleet moved to protect him. Ship after ship threw themselves between Mingho and the enemy. Taking hits meant for him, dying so he could live another second. Engineer Jiho Yoon was one of them. His ship, patched together with spare parts and determination, absorbed a blast that would have vaporized Minho's vessel. Go, Jiho said over the radio, his voice calm even as his ship broke apart around him. Finish this. Minho went. The hub was close now. Close enough to transmit. Minho activated the virus and sent it screaming into the hollow network. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the enemy ships began to shudder, to spin, to crash into each other. Their perfect coordination shattered. Their hive mind fractured. The virus was working. Minho's ship was hit a moment later. The blast tore through his cockpit, through his body, through everything he had ever been. But he died smiling. He died knowing he had won. The battle turned. The confused hollow ships were easy targets for the human fleet. One by one, they fell. The hub itself, deprived of its network, went dark and silent. When it was over, Admiral Park stood on the bridge of her damaged ship and looked at the wreckage floating in space. They had won. Against impossible odds, against an enemy that had destroyed civilizations, they had won, but the cost was terrible. Half the human fleet was gone. Millions dead. Heroes like Minho and Jiho would never see the victory they had earned. 3 years later, the galaxy was different. The old coalition was gone. In its place, a new assembly had formed. Humans sat at the center, not as servants, but as equals. The surviving races had learned their lesson. Some had learned it better than others. Dr. Hana Choi, 94 years old and still sharp as ever, addressed the first meeting of the new Galactic Assembly. We could have let you die, she said. Her voice was soft, but carried to every corner of the chamber. We almost did. You gave us every reason to walk away and never look back. The alien representatives listened in silence. Many of them were young, the last survivors of their kinds. But humanity decided that revenge was not worth losing our souls. We will work with you. We will help you rebuild. But never again will we be your shield while you mock us from safety. Never again. A young Velari, the last of her family, rose from her seat. Her crystal body was scarred, her light dimmed by grief. She bowed deeply in the human style. We understand now, she said, and we are sorry, truly sorry. It was not enough. It would never be enough. But it was a start. Admiral Yuna Park watched from the gallery. Captain Tayo Kim stood beside her. Older now, his anger faded into something quieter. Do you think they have really learned? He asked. No, she admitted. But we have. And that is what matters. Outside, the stars were bright. Not all of them. Many had gone dark forever, their worlds consumed by an enemy that no longer existed. The galaxy would carry those scars for 1,000,000 years. But it was alive. Wounded, changed, humbled, but alive. Because when the darkness came, humanity had not walked away. They had come back. They had fought. They had bled Dot, and they had saved a galaxy that did not deserve saving. That was who they were. That was who they had always been, the thankless guardians, the stubborn protectors, the ones who could not stand by while others suffered, no matter how much they had been hurt. They were human, and against all odds, against all reason, that was enough.